UK is reaching epidemic levels, and it's costing us billions of pounds every year. Deliberate crashes, bogus personal injury claims, even phantom pets. The fraudsters are risking more and more to make a quick killing. And every year, it's adding up to £50 to your insurance bill. Insurers are fighting back, armed with covert surveillance systems.
There's a subject out the vehicle.
Sophisticated data analysis techniques. And highly skilled, dedicated police units.
Police, don't move, stay where you are!
They're catching the criminals red-handed. All those con men, scammers and cheats on the fiddle, now they're caught in the act and claimed and shamed. A heartbreaking boss takes the blame for a dislocated knee.
The eventual outcome was decided by the CCTV footage.
A vigilante road user gets tough on fraud.
I think in Mr. Parker they definitely picked on the wrong individual.
And a specialist fraud-busting team is on the hunt for a crash-for-cash suspect.
It's the police, so can you open the door?
Bendy ones, tall ones, short ones and sometimes late ones. Buses are a varied bunch, but they have one thing in common. If you're not holding on tight, they can knock you off your feet. That's exactly what happened to this stricken man on the 427 bus in West London. He's just dislocated his knee.
The passenger has stood up, pressed the bell. As he stood up and pressed the bell, the driver has braked very hard, forcibly, causing him to plough into the seat in front of him and hit his knee on the seat. After the passenger's dislocated his knee, he's clearly in some pain. He then stands up and limps to the stairwell of the bus, trying to figure out how he's going to get down the stairs as he now can no longer bend his leg because he's dislocated his knee. He then realises he can't do this, so he decides just to sit down in the stairwell.
Blocking the stairwell, unable to move and in a lot of pain, the injured passenger alerted the driver.
The bus driver stopped to let some passengers get off, and after he'd closed the doors, he heard a voice, a male voice, saying, "Please, can you stop the bus? Hold on a second." So the bus driver waited.
Due to the severity of his injury, an ambulance was called for the lame passenger. That wasn't the last the bus company was going to hear of the incident.
The gentleman later on presented a claim for personal injury, for compensation for the injuries that he sustained to his knee. He's also stated that he has suffered a loss of earnings 2 months after the incident. He's claiming that he's still unable to work. Although he didn't quantify his claim, I would suspect it would be in the region of between £10,000 to £20,000, including legal fees. So not insubstantial amount.
For incidents like this, First Group self-insure, so they pay out for claims from their own pocket. The supposedly hard-braking bus driver had potentially exposed the bus company to a serious financial blow. But before the passenger could be paid, the bus company had to complete its standard claims process.
When the claim was submitted to us, we decided to investigate, as we do with all claims, using all the evidence available to us.
Evidence like this.
CCTV coverage on buses tends to be good in all areas. On this particular bus, we've got 12 cameras fitted. They will include cameras showing the upstairs deck, front and back, the stairwell. Also downstairs we'll have cameras looking at the passengers at the front and the back. We will have cameras showing people that are boarding the bus. There's a camera in the driver's cab so we can see what attention the driver is paying to what he's doing. We also got cameras on the outside of the bus looking forwards, backwards and along both sides, forward and backwards. So it's a pretty good overall view of all areas on the bus.
If the bus driver had dislocated the passenger's knee with some hard braking, his bosses were about to find out. This is the 427 bus on the evening of the incident. Here comes our passenger now.
He originally got on the bus, he stood at the bottom of the stairs, and then as the bus moved away, he decided to join the upper deck. He went to the back of the bus and sat straight in the middle seat.
Soon, according to his claim, we should expect to see the passenger's knee dislocated after the bus driver slams on his brakes. If you're squeamish, look away now.
When we looked at the footage, we realised that a very different story to the one that the gentleman had informed us was coming to light.
What the bus company saw was bizarre. The passenger engages in a session of martial arts with a much bigger opponent, the 427 bus.
He starts throwing the occasional martial art block and punch into the air.
It's an intimidating sight, one that drives his fellow passengers away from the battle zone.
Some of the passengers start moving away from him. He stands up and becomes a lot more animated. He starts throwing elbow blocks and knee strikes and kicks at the seats and the metal stanchions on the bus. And he really looks like he's trying to take down an invisible opponent.
Far from invisible, the 12-ton enemy was getting the upper hand.
He hugs onto the post and he becomes imbalanced and spins from the post. And it's at this point that he gets his right leg caught between his left leg and the seat, and you can see the twist of his knee, which is where the dislocation then occurs.
The passenger's version of events was a complete lie. His knee hadn't been dislocated due to the bus driver braking sharply. He dislocated his own knee, scrapping with a metal pole.
You can then see he's in some visible discomfort as he sits there, rolls up his trouser leg and starts to hold his knee.
Meanwhile, unaware of events unfolding upstairs, the driver brings the bus to a gentle halt for the next stop.
To be honest, the CCTV footage is probably all we needed to discredit this person's version of events. He's told us what happened in his words. We've looked at the footage. It clearly is very different to what he stated.
It couldn't be any clearer. The passenger's phony claim had been exposed.
The eventual outcome was decided by the CCTV footage. We sent that on to the claimant's solicitors and suggested that they view the footage and then decide whether they still wanted to progress with their claim. We have not heard back from them since.
Claims like this are ultimately paid for by the consumer, from the money they've handed over for their tickets. The bus company doesn't take it lightly.
In the event that this claim was pursued further and they decided that our repudiation was not accepted, we would have run this case to trial, definitely, through the civil courts. And we probably would have sent our information on to the police and asked them if they would consider prosecuting the claimant in this occasion.
An eagle-eyed road user disputes the facts.
Why are you saying 3 injured parties? I said, there's only 2 people in the other car.
A knife edge seems potentially case-closing evidence.
We seized a number of handwritten documents which are basically an outline of the accident.
Look at this mess. Mr. Parker, on the left, has just ploughed his vehicle into the back of the red car.
He came out of the car, I got out of the car, looked at the back of his car to see the damage, looked at the front of my car to see the damage.
It was a classic rear-end shunt that left the smaller red car with some damage.
I did ask him if he was okay. He said, oh, yeah. I said, I'm sorry. What else can you do when you hit somebody in the back of a car?
Mr. Parker was happy to take full responsibility for the damage, so handed his details over to the driver of the red car.
The claims that we received totalled about £30,000. That was made up of claims for the solicitor's costs and a very large credit hire claim. The vehicle that was involved in the accident was unroadworthy, couldn't be driven, and they wanted to claim over £8,000 for a replacement vehicle.
A 30 grand wallet. Mr. Parker's insurer was facing a very large outlay. They decided to contact Mr. Parker for more details about the incident.
I got a phone call from my insurance company saying, asking me had I been involved in a traffic accident. So I said, yes. Well, I was at fault because I hit the back of this other car that was stationary.
The insurer had some bad news. Mr. Parker was readily taking the blame for a much bigger claim than he realised.
They said, we don't think this is going to be a straightforward case. They're claiming whiplash injuries against insurance. So I said, well, they seemed all right at the time, but, these things can probably come into effect later.
Mr. Parker took the news well, but then the conversation took a turn.
They said, well, it's going to be 3 injured parties. Are you sure you're not all injured? I said, no, I'm not injured. But why are you saying 3 injured parties? I said, there's only 2 people in the other car. No, there was 3. So I said, there was a driver and his passenger, nobody else in the car.
A whiplash claim from 3 people could substantially add to the size of the claim. Mr. Parker's premium was in danger of rocketing. It could have been Mr. Parker's word against that of the red car driver. But Mr. Parker had an ace up his sleeve.
Well, I'm sorry, they put a claim in for 3 people. And I said, well, I'm sorry, there's not. Well, it's your decision, your argument against theirs. No, it's them against my onboard camera. To which they replied, you had it filmed?
2 years earlier, Mr. Parker had a small crash. Despite no serious dispute as to liability, he felt an onboard camera would have provided useful evidence. It had recorded his latest crash. Understandably, the insurance company were keen to get hold of the footage. It would easily solve the dispute about how many people had been in the red car at the time of the collision.
So we contacted him and arranged to collect the footage from him, which we then viewed when it got back to our offices. I was pleasantly surprised to see how clear the footage was.
Perfectly positioned in the middle of the dashboard, the camera was ready to settle the case. After the collision, the occupants of the red car emerge. 1, 2. Just as Mr. Parker had stated, there were only 2 people in the car at the time of the incident.
And that's really interesting because when the claims were presented to us, we actually get claims from 3 people, including a person that was allegedly in the back of the vehicle at the time of the accident.
So, after the driver of the red car had taken a wallop in the rear and driven away, he had deviously decided to inflate his insurance claim by inventing an extra passenger. But was it that simple? Something in the footage suggested to the insurer that the truth was far more sinister. They watched the video again.
So when I saw this footage, I was quite shocked. And we could see very clearly then exactly what had happened in the accident.
This is the footage from Mr. Parker's car, 40 seconds before impact.
So what we see in the footage is 2 vehicles on the roundabout, very close to each other, unusually close to each other.
Mr. Parker pulls in behind the 2 cars. All 3 vehicles enter the slip road leading to the dual carriageway. 20 seconds to impact. As the cars approach the dual carriageway, the lane they're trying to join is clear of traffic. So why did this happen?
As they were all going towards the point where the slip road joins the dual carriageway, all of a sudden the car in front, the silver car, brakes for absolutely no reason, causing the car directly in front of Mr. Parker to brake very aggressively, and Mr. Parker went into the rear of that car.
The insurance company knew what they were looking at. It looked like a crash for cash attempt. It appears the drivers of the silver and red cars had been working together in an attempt to make money from the innocent Mr. Parker. It seemed they'd been using a standard trick of the fraudster, the 3-car slam-on. This is how it works. 2 gang cars will drive in tandem. After choosing a victim, they move into position. Then, car 1, the decoy, will slam on its brakes for no reason, causing car 2 to react. This makes car 2 look innocent to the victim at the rear. It seemed Mr. Parker had just driven into such a trap.
I was shocked when we actually saw the footage that these people had the audacity to try and target an innocent motorist who was just going about his daily business and try and cause an accident where he could have been hurt and badly injured.
I think it's wrong that they should go down this road, and I think they don't look at the wider picture where they actually could cause serious injury. We were both lucky, or all three of us were lucky in this instance.
Because of the evidence that Mr. Parker had obtained, we were able to very quickly, very clearly reject those claims that had been made.
Instead of making off with £30,000 for their efforts, the driver of the car was given a police caution and didn't receive a penny.
I think in Mr. Parker, they definitely picked on the wrong individual.
Insurance fraud is on the rise, and if you have insurance of any kind, you're footing the bill. But the fraudsters have an ominous enemy.
IFED is a 35-strong unit that works tirelessly to hunt down and prosecute insurance fraudsters wherever they may be throughout England and Wales.
Through a combination of investigation, industry connections and surprise, they've made over 300 arrests and stopped millions of pounds from going to the criminals, money which ultimately goes back in our pockets.
It's highly likely now, if you commit any insurance fraud, you will get caught.
Police, don't move, stay where you are!
It seems the business of crash for cash is booming. Working closely with the insurers, IFED regularly take down these dangerous organised gangs. Today, IFED has one target, a man suspected of masterminding hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of fraudulent motor vehicle claims.
The subject who we're hopefully going to arrest this morning appears to have opened up 5 different policies with an insurance company, the same insurance company. And then shortly thereafter, he's made various claims. But there is a potential loss of over £200,000 when you take into account personal injury claims, etc., etc.
DC Sibley and the IFED team arrive at the home address of the suspect.
Police, can you open up?
Please, can you open that door, please? You can't find the key to open the door. Hey!
Good morning, sir. You found the keys. All right. My name's DC Iceland. I'm from the city. Thank you.
The IFED team is granted access to the property, but the man who has opened the door is not the suspect.
All right, they were your tenants. And when did those tenants move out?
The man IFED is talking to owns the house. He used to rent the property out to the suspect, but has now moved back in.
All right, well,
Thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
It wasn't a wasted visit. Information found inside the house has provided IFED with a new address to visit in their hunt for the suspect.
Yeah, Pat, what's the postcode for the next address?
Yeah.
What number? Police officers.
It's bonus time for IFED.
Came here looking for one. We've come away with 2.
This is the sound of a taus, a bow-stringed instrument from central and northern India. One of the most renowned players of the taus lives in Britain, Ranveer Singh. The highly regarded Ranveer is internationally recognised for his traditional Indian folk music. Like a lot of world-famous musicians, he had a smart car. Frustratingly, in March 2010, the talented Mr. Singh had his car stolen.
The claim was for the theft of his new Audi A5 motor car. Ranveer Singh alleged that he was visiting friends down in Southall, Middlesex, and had been away overnight and parked the car, and when he returned, the car had gone.
An Audi A5 is not the kind of car you want to have nicked. An average spec A5, fresh off the forecourt, will set you back roughly £30,000.
The police completed their standard inquiries and they concluded that it was a genuine claim, and therefore we were proceeding towards settlement.
Singh had only owned the car for 4 months before it was pinched, but he was fully insured, so he would be back on the road as soon as the insurer had checked out the claim. On receiving the claim, the insurer needed to clear up a couple of things.
There were some discrepancies in terms of circumstances, and as often is the standard process, we sent out an investigator to take a statement from Mr. Singh. There were some discrepancies between the version that he gave to our investigators and the version he gave to us when he actually made the claim. And they revolved around where the car was parked and what he did immediately on discovering the car had been stolen. The main discrepancy being in terms of what street he'd actually parked the car in.
An understandable mistake, especially if you don't live in the area.
There were some concerns, but after doing the initial checks, we thought the claim did occur in the manner it was reported, so we started to proceed towards settlement.
A few weeks of paperwork followed, by which point the insurer was on the brink of the payout to Singh, when, out of the blue, they got a phone call, informing them that the stolen Audi had been located.
4 months after the claim was submitted, in August 2010, we received a call from the police, which was unusual. The car was stopped in Germany by the border police.
Great. Ranbir Singh could have his car back. Not yet. Something inside the car caused the UK police to look more closely into the disappearance of the vehicle.
There were two guys from Cyprus driving the car, and they were stopped, and they had a handwritten note alleging that they had permission to take the car.
Having learned of the note, the UK police gave the insurer a warning.
They basically told us to not proceed with payment, that Mr. Ranbir Singh was under investigation.
That's because the handwritten note in the car was from Ranbir Singh.
They took about 3 months to investigate circumstances, and in October 2010, Mr. Ranbir Singh was arrested.
Upon his arrest, Singh revealed all.
Mr. Ranbir Singh purchased a vehicle in December 2009 and almost immediately started to experience financial difficulties, was having trouble paying back the finance he had on the car, and he alleges that he'd met somebody that said to him, "We can start to help you pay your debts off," and he paid this unknown individual £7,000, deal being that the individual would arrange for a couple of guys to take the car, cross borders into Europe and make the car vanish.
Ranbir Singh, the musician, was now Ranbir Singh, the insurance fraudster. The fallen musician was facing a tough day in court. In December 2011, Ranbir Singh was convicted of fraud and sentenced to 10 months imprisonment.
The unusual twist in this story is that Ranbir Singh was actually a very prominent figure in his local community. He's a very highly acclaimed Indian musician. And for somebody of that standing to attempt insurance fraud is unusual, but really does demonstrate that actually it's a lot more prevalent than perhaps people think.
Today, IFED is tracking down a man suspected of making hundreds of thousands of pounds out of fraudulent motor insurance claims.
But there is a potential loss of over £200,000 when you take into account personal injury claims, etc., etc.
IFED found that the suspect no longer lives at the first location visited, so is following a lead to a new address. They have no idea who or what they will find in the house.
Hello, good morning. Hello, is your mummy around or daddy?
IFED can find no sign of an adult presence in the house.
Hello? Hello, is your mummy and daddy around? Don't be scared, it's the police. Can you open up, please?
It's the police, so can you open the door?
The minutes tick by. The team is still waiting to be given access to the property.
Yeah, it's the police.
I can see one.
Yeah, she's gone upstairs.
It's 3 kids, it's a little girl, that's why.
The longer they wait, the more likely it is that the suspect could destroy potential evidence.
She's down the toilet being flushed.
This baby, this toddler, and there's a little girl. Well, hiya, police officers.
Hello there, good morning, sir.
From their extensive research, IFED know they have found their suspect.
My name's DC Einsman, River City Police. I'm looking for you, so I'd like to step in and talk to you. Okay, I'm going to arrest you, okay? You're under arrest in connection with fraudulent insurance policies for motor vehicles and subsequent claims made on them. I'm arresting you for the prompt and effective investigation of these offences.
The suspect's been arrested, so we're going to do a search now of the property to see if we can find any more documentation, anything relevant to the offences. He's not particularly happy that we're there, but that's all we can do. And see what we can find.
The suspect wasn't where IFED expected to find him, but DC Sibley's team searched the house they'd been led to. Filming access is restricted to the unplanned raid location. Within minutes, the search yields potential evidence.
We're in one of the main bedrooms at the moment, and it's just sackfuls of paperwork, documentation, quite a lot of it relating to what we're investigating. We seized a number of notebooks with handwritten notes in them showing names, addresses of possible claimants. Seized a large number of certificates of motor insurance, all linked to the index numbers and names of the people that have made the claims.
The search of the main bedroom has become red hot. DC Sibley has some potentially incriminating exhibits in her hands.
We seized a number of handwritten documents which are basically an outline of the accident. This would be a map of the collision of the roads and where the collision took place, showing obviously the roundabout, the vehicles involved, and street names, and actually how the accident happened. And this is quite common, we find this quite a lot. But we found a number of those. 3 I've got here, as I say, the driver details of the third-party vehicle, victims' details, insurance company details, and obviously full description of how the accident happened with a nice little diagram.
The search of the main bedroom is complete. The suspect IFED came for is taken away for further questioning. Out of the blue, DC Sibley's attention is drawn to another occupant of the house.
We came in here looking for one person, but when during the search, the other male in the premises has sort of stated to me that the documentation is his, it's in his bag, and it's in his bedroom. So because of what we found, he's been arrested as well on suspicion of fraud by false representation. So we came here looking for one, we've come away with 2, and a lot of information and evidence. There is a lot of documentation in there relating to fraud, in my opinion, so they're going to have a lot of questions to answer.
IFED has got more than the suspect it came for. It could be driving away with the evidence it needs to seal another case against the menace of insurance fraud.